Hey, everybody, Grant Miller here. Yes, Miami Community Newspapers. We're with Miami-Dade County Parks and Metro Zoo, Zoo Miami. We got Willie's in the house. It's here for Willie. Do we get a round of applause anymore?
Thank you. Thank you.
And we got downtown Julie Brown. So listen, before we get to Willie, because everybody loves Willie, but Willie says everybody loves you. So what do you do at the zoo?
Thank you. I am the graphics and exhibits manager at the zoo. So I am in charge of all of the signage and all of the interpretive exhibits within the park.
And I've known you at the zoo forever, almost. Right?
Yeah.
We started working there when we were just babies, practically.
Yes.
So how long have you been at the zoo?
2012. I've been at the zoo almost 10 years. It's around 9 years.
So out of junior high, you went there.
Yes, just out of elementary school.
Okay, so Willie, listen, not everybody remembers you, but you started in Dade County at the zoo?
Yeah, so I grew up next to the park that I'm at right now, which is Bill Sadowski Park, and kind of started my love for animals and the environment. And I went off to work at the zoo. I was at the zoo started in 2005, maybe.
Do your parents still live there?
Yeah.
When they bought that house, what, 30 years ago, 20 years ago?
Right after Andrew.
That was no man's land.
No, there was nothing. I actually met the developer that developed all the houses down 176 when there was nothing but fields there.
And near your house, you were there at Hurricane Andrew.
We bought it right after Andrew.
That big boat was on that land right near there.
Yes.
Okay, so tell us what you do at the zoo.
So I'm in charge of basically all of the signage within the park, and then also all of our interpretive exhibits, like the Conservation Action Center and any traveling exhibits that we get in the park.
So what's happening at the zoo? There's so many things.
So there's always something really crazy happening at the zoo. But
by the way,
now,
I don't want to interrupt. Your numbers are up.
Yes, they are.
Everybody
yeah,
saw
we're really actually excited that we've had kind of a consistent flow of people, which has been really nice. And we're now selling out on the weekends. We have a cap for attendance on basically every day, but mostly we hit our cap on the weekends.
What's that cap? A percentage of?
Yeah, it's about 50%.
That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
That's congratulations to everybody at the zoo.
Yes,
you know that used to be a military base. That was the blimp base.
It did.
That you remember those days. And that part of the north end of that property, there's that still kind of the blimp. I remember going there in the 60s, like that was no man's land.
Yeah. The blimp, one of the sides of the doors is still there, and that's on the Gold Coast property.
And that's why the parking lot is in the shape that it is, because of the blimps that were landing there.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about your center on 176.
Yeah, everything's going pretty good over at Bill Sadowski Park. We, getting things moving. We actually just released on Monday a hawk with our friends over at Wildlife Rescue.
Wait, when you say you let it go, you mean
released it? Yeah, back out into the wild. So that was a good thing.
Where did like from you? Where does it fly? Does it stay?
That bird's actually going to migrate north. So right now,
what was wrong with the hawk?
Not entirely sure. It was this lethargic, maybe some soft tissue damage, and that hawk was just not, someone was actually able to just pick him up, and they called the local rehabber, which is the Wildlife Rescue of Dade County. They were able to rehabilitate that bird, and we let it go over next to the preserve at the park, which was great.
And did it go up high, or did it just fly to one of the trees?
It actually took off and went straight into the preserve. It made me so happy to see this bird go back.
What kind of hawk?
It was a sharp-shinned hawk.
A sharp-shinned?
Sharp-shinned. So like your shin, sharp-shinned. Wow. A beautiful, beautiful hawk. We have footage of it. We'll be hopefully editing it and getting it out pretty soon. But it was a great way to start Earth Week.
Julie, can you move a little this way, closer to your mic, or really closer to me, but we'll just closer to the mic.
Okay.
Wait, talk about the Action Center, because have you been to the Action Center?
The Conservation Action Center? Yeah. Yes, I actually I worked on it from beginning to end. So that Conservation Action Center is my baby at the zoo.
Okay, so why don't you talk about it?
Oh, I got a chance to see it as a guest the first day.
So who knows more about it?
Julia does. Yeah.
Okay, let's downtown Julie Brown. You talk about it.
So the Conservation Action Center.
I was there a ribbon cutting.
Yes.
We did a special section on that.
Yes, you did. You did a whole magazine on it.
Yes.
And I loved it. I have it in my office and at home.
So why don't you talk about it?
So the Conservation Action Center is our newest indoor interpretive exhibit, and it's all about conservation right here in South Miami. in South Florida locally, and then also globally. It also has to do with what you as an individual citizen can do in your own home to help conservation, and what AZA accredited zoos like Zoo Miami, what role we play in that really big conservation story around the world. It's interactive and interpretive, and so you can touch and play with everything in the exhibit, and you learn things about local wildlife, native species, invasive species in South Florida, and then how conservation really connects all of us across the globe. So it's really fun.
And how long does it take to go through?
It depends on how long you play with all of the cool stuff that we have. But you can take 10 minutes to 45 minutes. We've had people in the exhibit for 2 hours.
Kids
playing.
love it.
Yes. We have a crawl through python where kids can crawl through the mouth of Burmese python. We have scoop the poop.
That's cool. What about poop?
You can scoop the poop, be a keeper for a couple of minutes. And
Which poop?
Poop
Whose
into, well, it's simulated poop.
Oh.
It's like a ball pit, and you put it into a compost bin. You can take a personality test that matches you with one of 4 animals of conservation concern, and then follow that animal's story through their lifetime of conservation. You can play whack-a-mole. We have a whack-a-mole where you're whacking out all the environmental threats to the habitats. And then we have a live animal collections within the center. We have native animals, so you can actually like meet some of the really cool animals that live right in your backyard, and then also some invasive species, so that you learn a little bit about why they are so impacting our local wildlife. And then
give me an example of some of them.
Invasive species.
Yes.
So we have a red-tailed boa, and we have an Argentinian black and white tegu in the exhibit as the ambassadors for the invasive species. And our messaging.
We saw them, right? You brought
both of those. Yep,
Yeah.
I've had both of those species here.
Yeah, but I have to interrupt you. But the funniest show we ever had is when he brought the Cuban frogs in. They're on the fence. I mean, we had glass. He's on the wall. They're all over. I think he left some behind. Okay. Before, let everybody know. What's the most unique thing about you? You know what it is?
No, what is it?
That your 3 siblings work at the zoo with you. That is,
Yep.
I don't know if it's cool. My brother used to be, he used to sit 64 feet away from me and avoid me. So I understand. Do you have lunch with them?
No, I've actually never had lunch with any of them. It's a little bit embarrassing, but it's also kind of cool. But we hardly ever see each other. The zoo is so big that we pass them, and it's just like the wave, and that's it. But that's the zoo wave that we do to everyone.
What is it?
The zoo wave
you
is
just kind of wave at everybody.
Yeah.
As they're
Anybody that goes by, you wave.
Oh, there's not a secret handshake?
We can't show you that.
Okay. Yeah. Good. Okay. What has COVID changed? Because you opened up in the middle of COVID.
Yeah, we did. So we were actually supposed to open the Conservation Action Center on our 40th anniversary of 2020, which was July 4th.
Right.
Obviously, that didn't happen because of COVID. We were still in pre-production and construction for the exhibit, and so that went to a screeching halt. We ended up opening it January 16th. And we had capacities on the building. Obviously, we close in the middle of the day to clean. We clean at the beginning. We clean at the end of the day. And we actually can't have any interactive programming with staff. So usually what our grand ideas for the Conservation Action Center was you can be able to go in and touch everything and play with everything. And then we have interactive programming where you're learning through play with all of our programming that's happening within the center. We want to have researchers in there talking. We want our vets in there talking about the all of the work that they're doing, conservationists. And unfortunately, because of COVID, we can't have all of that additional programming happening right now.
Willie, I just want to make it clear. The beginning of the show, I've never done this. She's natural, the 2 of you.
I told you.
Do you have any artwork to put up, Tommy? Community Resilience Pod Miami.
The Resiliency
Pod.
Pod.
Resilient, sorry. Why don't we talk about, is that your program or Willie's?
That one's mine.
Yeah, we all tie it in together. We're all one big giant parks family. So
we are, yeah. So the Resiliency Pod, we're hosting that for, right now we have Party for the Planet. One of the things that we're doing is hosting the Resiliency Pod through the Atlantic Council. So it's funded through the Adrienne Arsht and Rockefeller Foundations. And it's
you have to apply for those grants.
Yes, so they did that through the Atlantic Council. We're hosting it at the zoo. It was supposed to debut also during COVID, and that didn't happen. So really, we are the debut facility for the Resiliency Pod. It's a modified shipping container, and it's really cool.
There it is.
There it is.
I want to keep talking about
It's got beautiful artwork by a local artist that's called Warming Stripes. It's all about climate change. And the Resiliency Pod really is a community resource where people can find out more and more about local resiliency programs that are happening all over South Florida, from individuals, nonprofits, and also government organizations that are working to make the community, but also our government and our infrastructure more resilient against environmental impacts, things like droughts, floods, but then also climate change, sea level rise, what's actually happening around Miami-Dade County to combat some of those things and to raise awareness for how we can be more resilient as a community.
So what else is happening at the zoo? There's so many things. Break it down a little bit.
There is. So we've got Party for the Planet. The Resiliency Pod is here until May 2nd. We have tree giveaways at the Resiliency Pod right now. They partnered with
Wait.
Million
So if I
Trees
go to this
Miami.
thing, they'll give me a tree?
Yeah.
How big a tree?
Yeah. They're baby trees. Sometimes we have, they've had 3-gallon pots, and then next week we have 1-gallon pots of, and I can't remember what tree it is that we're giving out next week. But Xavier Cortada will also be at the pod next Saturday.
Who's that?
He is a local artist that does environmental art around South Florida. And he has a program right now where they are installing flags at trees in your yard. Because basically for example, Million Trees Miami is a Miami-Dade County program that's working to get our tree canopy back to 30%. And so what they're doing is Xavier's project is adding flags to all of the trees that are being planted, and they get a GPS locator so that you can tell on his website all of the different trees that are being planted around South Florida.
And that's
kind of a cool program.
So important, because when we look at nature and you know, all this ties into being sustainable with nature. And Grant, how many trees do you think a year are cut down? Take a wild guess.
For community newspapers, paper by itself.
Yeah, get it on.
It's probably over a couple million.
15 billion
trees
a year.
I was just talking about community newspapers.
Well, no, just in the world, you know. So
and these trees, like in Canada, when they cut trees down, they're replanting all the time. But not every country is doing that.
No, that doesn't happen all over the world. So it's important.
Like in Brazil, they're knocking down the Amazon, and it's screwing up everything. Correct?
Yeah, and when you look at things like that, I mean, how does that affect us right here? Let's talk about like some of the most biodiverse places in the world. South Florida, we're one of them. I mean, we're so close to the equator. We're between, you know, these very interesting spaces in latitude that make it so unique for us to have one of the most biodiverse places in the world. Julia and I, funny enough, I don't even think you know I was going to bring this up. One thing that, I mean, we are both super passionate about is Southeast Asia. And, you know,
why?
When we look at the equator, that is where most of the biodiversity on the planet is. And that's what's important, because when we look at these things, that's what we need to sustain, because unsustainability can't go on forever. And cutting down 15 billion trees a year is not sustainable.
And let's say we're cutting down 15 billion. How many could you be replacing, and how long does it take to catch up to those 15 billion?
That's a great question, a lot, and it takes a lot of time. So we need to make sure that we're sustainable when we do these things, and that's the whole point of this, is the resiliency pod and what we do within EcoAdventures, the zoo, all of these things to ensure that we can live sustainably on this planet, because that lack of biodiversity or loss of biodiversity is what is the biggest threat to us as humans. I mean, our population just grows exponentially. I mean, the last 60 years, our population's doubled, you know, so it's crazy, and it's expected it's just going to continue to grow. And that's great, but we need to be able to do this sustainably to be able to do that. And
learning ways to live with wildlife, because it's unrealistic to think that like, oh, okay, well, we're just gonna stop expanding. That's just not gonna happen. So what we really need to do as a human species is learning to live with
I like that
wildlife.
word, human species.
Species is to learn to live with wildlife. There are ways that happens all over the world really successfully. And so the Conservation Action Center has a large section about that, and it's called Finding a Shared Habitat. And this is
we're struggling that in Miami. We're struggling right now.
We are, and that's why projects like Million Trees Miami is so important.
And the coyotes, I think about the coyotes. They're coming down here for a reason, and I read it somewhere. Why are they coming down more?
Well, there's a lot of habitat fragmentation that's been happening as our cities grow. We are kind of putting roads and putting these blocks between what is naturally those animals' habitats. And so actually in the resiliency pod, we have a story in there for Zoo Miami that is highlighting our butterfly bunker. And that is where Tiffany Moore is our butterfly specialist. It's in, speaking of World War II, it's in one of the old World War II bunkers at the back of the zoo. It was renovated to become the butterfly bunker. They now research and raise imperiled butterflies around South Florida and work to reconnect the fragmented habitats that used to be all over South Florida. So with Fairchild Tropical Gardens, there's a program called Connect to Protect. You can go to Fairchild and get native plants to plant in your yard. Once you have enough of those plants in your yard, you can apply to actually get imperiled butterflies from the zoo to let go in your yard. This not only is reconnecting fragmented habitats all around South Florida, which could be your yard. Your yard is a habitat. A whole lot of animals that are native to South Florida live in your yard, whether you know it or not. And a lot of that is an education. What we do at the Conservation Action Centers, if you see, for example, a snake.
Say that faster.
The Conservation Action Center?
Say it faster.
Conservation Action Center.
Okay, just make sure you got it.
I've been saying this for 5 years now.
You got it down.
I'm down on the Conservation
You know, it's
Action
interesting
Center.
because we forget, we have little shrubs here, we got little shrubs there, and I see on Facebook and all over, what kind of lizard is this? The one with the orange tails.
Yeah.
And then,
Adamas.
but I see the lizards, and if you live, I would say east of the turnpike, that's this way. There's more habitat because there's more of the canals and closer to the bay, and where you grew up back then. We talked about it, the blue crabs used to. You couldn't drive to his house when he.
Oh, absolutely no.
Yeah,
but just seeing the change too. In my lifetime, I've seen a change. In the 33 years that I've been alive, I've and what I can remember maybe 25 of those that really well. I've seen a decline and difference in wildlife there. And the important thing is that we think globally but act locally. And all those things that Julia talked about are just so amazing, and for all the reasons that they are, personally for me, they're super amazing. The butterfly bunker, I used to teach high school out there. I was one of the first people to help them put some of those.
Which high school?
With Biotech High School when we first opened it up.
And now EcoAdventures does a kayaking program back there.
So I take people out there all the time, and I've gotten a chance to see it grow and blossom into this habitat that was fragmented into an area that's being restored ecologically to allow these animals to have a place to live. And that's the beauty of the zoo, in my opinion. I grew up there and worked there for so long that it's not only home to animals that are in human care as ambassadors to their cousins out in the wild. The zoo, because of its prime location and the habitat that surrounds it with that pine rockland, which is the most biodiverse habitat in South Florida. Everyone thinks, the Everglades. No, pine rockland is the most biodiverse area in South Florida. And we have all these species there, and the zoo's home to those animals that are there, that are wild animals, that are native.
So let's ask you a question now. How much do you think is left of the Florida pine rocklands in the world?
In the world?
In the world.
How
much of it is
left? Can I do Dade County?
Yes, you can do Dade County.
10%.
2%.
2%.
In Dade County.
In the world.
But in Dade County.
But in Miami-Dade County. So we have, on zoo property, we have the largest section of the Florida pine rocklands outside of Everglades National Park. It used to be all over Dade County.
So I went to the Everglades about 2 months ago. And when you're on the airboat, praying that the guy won't throw you off and chop you up and feed you to the crocodile. He took me where the water goes to the cypress. Yeah. There was no land because the crocodiles, alligators.
Those
Depends. It could be both.
They're all over the place. I'm thinking, I ain't getting off this boat. He says, but point of it is, when you're out in the Everglades, you go, the Everglades went all the way to here.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. We
forget
this loss here at home, but it happens everywhere. I've been really fortunate that I've seen pine rocklands here at the zoo. I mean, I trek through there all the time. And I've seen them in Everglades National Park. I've seen them in the Caribbean. And I've seen some of the pine rocklands in the Bahamas. So it's amazing to see that kind of habitat. But, if we notice these small changes here at home, they're happening everywhere. And we were talking about Indonesia and Southeast Asia. That's something that's near and dear to Julia and I both. And I think we really bonded over things like that when we worked together and as friends, because when we look at that, I mean, Southeast Asia is probably the most biodiverse, if not one of the most top 3 biodiverse places in the world. And it's being lost and cut down at an astronomical rate because of things that I bet you and me had something to do with that today.
Yep.
Which is palm oil. Over half of the things that you buy in a grocery store have palm oil. And the question is, as an educated consumer, you can make a difference. Mm-hmm. Because when we cut rainforest down at that alarming rate, we're losing biodiversity loss. And everyone thinks biodiversity, it's just the animals that are there. That's not true. Biodiversity is the whole ecosystem. So when we highlight something like an orangutan, which are some of the first animals I ever got a chance to work with when I was a kid, and I absolutely love them. I think they kind of sealed the deal for me to want to help protect the environment and, work with wildlife. And I realized I should work with wildlife right here at home to make a difference. And when we look at an animal like an orangutan and we protect that habitat, we protect that animal, we protect that whole habitat.
Yep. And that's what an umbrella species is.
Correct.
And so by helping that one animal, you're helping to save an entire ecosystem, because they are either an apex predator or they are really high up within the food chain within that habitat. And so by protecting that one species that lives over many, 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 many different acres, we are then protecting all of the other animals that live within that space.
Okay. Question.
Yes.
This is the last week of what?
Last week of Earth Month.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I just want to make sure you got that.
So you want to talk about umbrella species. It goes back to way back in the day. And this was an idea that, people were like, let's protect habitat using a species like this. Mm-hmm. In the 1966, we had the Endangered Species Act. That was something that was super important. And one of the first animals to have been put on there was actually a couple of them that are Florida natives, the manatee and the American alligator. I actually brought one of those today.
Oh, really?
I did. 1966, these guys were endangered, but, endangered pretty much means they still have a chance, right? We still, they're still have a chance to not go extinct, because there's been several mass extinctions in the world, Grant. I don't know if you know that. There's been 5 mass extinctions, and we're seeing a 6th. And it's happening at an alarming rate because as humans, we need to be more sustainable. And I'm going to tie that into an umbrella species in a second with this alligator. But if we think about it, I mean, we've seen a decrease in our oceans, for example. And I hear you have some guests coming from EcoAdventures pretty soon to talk about oceans. But 90% of large fish populations have been lost in the ocean. And a lot of people think, how does that tie into what I do? But we see the population grow, and we see, climate change has been linked to every single mass extinction. And we have done about 1 million years worth of global climate change in just 200 years with the Industrial Revolution. And things that would happen through volcanic activity and natural phenomenon are now happening at a rate that is crazy because of humans using fossil fuels, burning carbon. And I mean, during COVID, we got a chance to see the planet take a breather almost.
Rebound a little bit.
Right? I mean, think about like just air pollution itself.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw places that are covered in smog and earth, like just icky places that, air quality is terrible. we saw it just say, okay, here, we're bouncing back. You've been to Central Park before?
I
Yes.
haven't.
What?
I have
You've
never
been
been
in
to Central Park.
Puerto Rico, you've been in Jamaica, but you've never been to Central Park.
Nope, never
So-
been there.
For the first time in 80 years, a snowy owl showed up at Central Park. How crazy is that? And it was just a chance. Wildlife had a chance,
And they saw it. I mean,
it was documented. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and
In
you know,
India, they could see the Himalayas for the first time
how
in forever. And in California, they could see the mountains.
yeah,
I mean, just
in LA.
these amazing places that are right next door, but you can't see them.
I want to bring up something about the zoo that we don't talk about enough. Zoos have changed.
Oh, absolutely.
50 years to now,
Absolutely.
the zoos now are preserving,
Yes.
rescuing.
So above everything else, we're in education. We're a
And it's more
conservation
as now-
institution.
Before it was a exhibit. Now
Mm-hmm.
people are, because good zoos are teaching the human species
Yep.
to respect animals.
Yep.
And how the zoo is producing animals and puppies, babies.
Yeah.
But-
I mean, some of them have puppies.
Yeah.
but
What do you call them? Babies.
babies.
Okay.
you know,
Different kinds. Pups.
when we have animals in human care, and zoos have been instrumental in having some of these animals be repopulated back out into the wild.
Yeah. So there's so many stories of that. In 1972, let me say that
Were you born
properly.
yet?
1972, I was not born yet.
Yeah.
Were you born yet?
Way to put them on the spot, Julia.
Wow.
I got
Damn.
at least
I
for
wasn't
one.
either, all right? Just for the record, can you make sure that gets on?
On the
this?
record.
So in 1972, the last Arabian oryx was killed in the wild.
Arabian what?
Arabian oryx is a
Oryx.
type of beautiful antelope that lives in Africa in the Arabian desert. And the last one was shot in 1972. That animal went extinct in the wild. There was a large population under human care. Zoos banded together and said, we're not going to let this animal go extinct.
Yeah.
They created a reintroduction program. And today there are 5 stable populations of Arabian oryx.
When you
in
say
the
stable, mean,
wild. They mean that they don't need human intervention anymore. They are breeding on their own.
Where?
They're living
What
on their
country?
own. It's in the Arabian desert. They have 5 different locations where they are within the Arabian desert.
Well,
and that's because of zoos.
Right here in South Florida, zoos like Zoo Miami with the Arabian oryx, even the golden lion tamarin. As
Yeah.
a kid, I was really fortunate to work with those animals, and I love them. I think they're amazing. And I worked with them at Monkey Jungle, and Monkey Jungle worked on that repopulation effort, getting these animals back into the rainforest of Brazil, which is critical for that species. And when you know, it's a cute little monkey, looks like a lion, all gold.
Which monkey?
Golden lion tamarin.
Like a marmoset.
It's in the same marmoset. It's in the marmoset family. It's Calitridae.
But which ones did we import? The white hand? We used to import the white hands.
Yeah, there's all kinds of different primates like that. And I personally worked with some of these animals that had been sired offspring that were sent back out into the wild. So, you know, it's about thinking globally, but acting locally. And that's what's so important, because, you know, we can all make a difference. And you might be thinking, oh, climate change, how does that have anything to do with it? You know, when we put all these greenhouse gases, and we've been talking about this for years. Shout out to Miami Palmetto Senior High School. And
give him a round of applause. Give him a round of
Yes.
applause.
And
Let's
can
we get it again?
Yeah, that's right.
That's Robin Gilbert.
That's
love
Rob's
that.
place. Yeah. So
I went to school at the same time. I said I was careful to say I didn't
But you-
attend. I was enrolled. Ron went to school.
but
You know,
were you enrolled at Palmetto?
I was a couple years ahead of him, but you know, he would go to class. I'd be in the parking lot. We just
Hanging out.
just
Yeah.
hanging out, checking out the animals.
Well, I'll tell you what. Shout out to Palmetto Senior High School and to my environmental science teacher, Pamela Schlackman. She is amazing. And
Is she
we
still
talked
there?
About this. Oh yeah.
Let's give her a shout out. Come on,
Yes.
give her a shout out.
PJ,
You ready?
this is for you.
What's your what PJ?
Yeah, that's what we called her.
Oh.
But it was we talked about this then, and you know, it's 20 years ago, and we look at these things, they're still happening. And you know, we can make a difference because we have all these greenhouse gases and carbon dioxide going out to the environment, and we cut down trees at this alarming rate, causes, you know, things in the poles not to freeze properly. We've seen you know, an increase in our air temperatures because our surface temperatures and water temperatures are continuing to rise. They've reached that capacity. So we've seen issues in the ocean. And when we kind of talk about sustainability, we bring this all in together because it can be done. And that's kind of our goal, I think, within zoos, aquariums, organizations specialized organizations within the Parks Department, like us at EcoAdventures. We kind of tie these things in. And this is the perfect example, Grant. In 1966, you weren't around back then, never mind. That's for the record.
I was 10.
Yeah. Well, there was the Endangered Species Act that was put together.
Them.
Yeah. This animal was one of the first animals to be put on the Endangered Species Act. And it was put on there as an umbrella species. They kind of slid that in there and were like, hey, alligator's important. Let's help protect them. But more importantly, this is going to help protect their habitat, which is right here in South Florida. And this animal's keystone to its habitat. And that means that it is as important to its environment as its environment is to it. Think about that for a second. The environment cannot sustain itself without this species. And obviously this animal cannot sustain itself without the environment. So alligators were crucial to helping protect the Everglades. These guys dig holes and make it so that other animals have the ability to drink during the dry season. We haven't had those 3 o'clock, rainstorms coming in very, often. April showers bring May flowers. It's what, April 25th? And we haven't had a lot of rain. We see all these weird changes in climate and weather patterns, more than likely because of the accelerated rate of climate change. But these animals have to adapt. And alligators have adapted over millions of years to allow other animals to drink and have the ability to live.
See, people don't know that.
And that's why education is key. Yep. Being an educated person about our environment can make the world of a difference.
When we see these animals, we run.
And
so that's one of the most important things is to understand that these animals, they've lived here forever, and it's learning to live with them. And there are
not them learning with us. We should learn how to learn with them.
Correct. So like snakes in your backyard, right? Everyone's terrified of snakes in your backyard. Snakes are so important to the environment. They're the ones that are keeping the rats under control. All of those other pets, bats, everyone's terrified of bats. Bats are some of the best species. They eat how many mosquitoes do they eat a day? Something like 5 million. Yeah. It's not 5 million, but it's a lot. I can't
stand mosquitoes, but
I can't either.
The most endangered mammal
in your house
in North America.
A bat box.
Yeah, the most endangered mammal in North America is the bonneted bat. That's right here in South Florida.
Yep.
And we can all do our part in helping protect these animals, again, by having people be educated. And
that's where programs like EcoAdventures and coming to the zoo and really learning about it, because no one wants to learn, right? No one wants to be educated. I don't want to be educated either. You want to come and you want to have fun. And while you have fun, you learn these amazing things about your local environments, about animals, about your impact on the global world, even if it's just right here. All of those things have much larger impacts, like we were talking about palm oil. Yeah. Just by going to the grocery store and looking at what's in the products that you're buying has a global impact. The more we say, I'm not going to purchase products that have unsustainable palm oil, there are ways that companies are using sustainable palm oil. And they're working with farmers in Indonesia to not clear cut new rainforest. They're using the rainforest that has already been cut down to grow palm oil sustainably. And they work with the farmers. So the farmers are still making money. But you're not doing any further damage to the environment. And so just by making that choice, I'm not going to purchase this product, I'm going to purchase this one instead. You've now made a choice in your daily life that didn't really impact you very much, but has a global impact much, much bigger than what you would imagine.
Grant, what Julia is tying in perfectly there is that you, me, we all make a difference every single day.
Yep.
And it's small change because honestly, there's things in that have palm oil that I love. Candy. There's certain candy that I'm like, I have to have it.
Like which candy?
We're not going to get into that because we'll be here till tomorrow. But, we can think about some of those things and say, what is my impact on that? And I'll tell you what, my Earth Day, every Earth Day, I people have New Year's resolutions. I make an Earth Day resolution, and I try to, make a commitment to doing something. And
just one thing.
Yep. Grant, what's our favorite place to grab a hot dog?
Arbiter hot dogs.
Arbiter hot dogs, man. I love hot dogs.
And I'm very concerned, though, so I eat as much as I can so the bread doesn't sit there. 3 or 4 at a time. Right, Tommy?
Yep. But think about this, though. I mean,
why'd you bring that up? Now when I'm gonna go to Arbiter's.
I'm surprised. I expected to have a Arbiter.
Well, I didn't know you were coming to. Hey, Tommy, next time he comes, you make sure I go get.
But no, we'll make sure that we can go. We'll go to Arbiter together.
I feel like you need to eat it on air now.
No.
No?
Yeah.
You're not gonna eat Arbiter.
Well, first of all,
it
goes so quick.
But does Arbiter's have veggie dogs? Because
yes, they do.
This is how I'm tying this in.
Yes, he does.
I love, I love cooking. I love meat. And I'm definitely like a carnivore at heart. I was vegetarian for 6 years, but I realized, hey, I like eating meat, and meat has a huge impact on the environment. Let's talk about just like animals in general. Like 7 out of 10 birds on this planet are domesticated birds for food consumption, and that has a huge impact on our global environment. So my new resolution for Earth Day was to try to go meatless one day a week. I'm not going to go vegan or vegetarian. I love cheese too much to do that. But I can make a difference by taking that small step. Here's another thing.
By the way, every time I see Willie, I think of Lion King. The movie, the Circle of Life.
Yeah.
Every time I see him, he talks about the Circle of Life. I cry every time I see that movie.
I'm glad you don't cry every time you see me.
No,
because most people want to. When they think about the environment,
when they see you, they want to cry.
No, man, I hope not. Julia, you've been seeing me for a long time.
Okay.
But
I've never
we're gonna have to wrap this up with Julie.
Yes.
Julia, we have a little game here.
Oh man, this is good.
I'm
Julia.
scared.
I didn't tell you about this.
Are you ready? You getting applause ready? Your cousin, your family's birthdays. Go. Your brothers, sisters. Go.
Oh, October 30th, August 24th.
Okay. What about the other one?
May 3rd.
Okay. Parents.
Well, my dad is May 3rd.
Mom. Really? What a hell of a child you are. You're superheroes as a kid.
Superheroes. I didn't really.
Captain Planet, Julia. Captain Planet.
Captain Planet.
Okay. All right, this is a new one. Cowboy movie or cowboy? Name one. Your favorite.
Does Johnny Cash count?
That counts. That's a good one.
All right.
What
Clint
for you?
Eastwood?
That's a good one. Okay, we got you. Okay. Your Earth Week resolution. Go. Give me
Earth
one.
Week
He gave
resolution.
me his. Go.
I am going to look more at the products that I purchase at the store.
Gotcha. Okay.
Grant, what's yours?
Go to Arbiter's in about a half hour.
Are you gonna bring a sustainable, reusable cup?
Thanksgiving words, not sentences. Give me some words why you love Thanksgiving.
Happiness.
What else?
Food.
Okay.
I love food.
Okay. Your favorite pizza place?
Favorite pizza place. I don't want to say Pizza Hut, but I'm going to say Pizza Hut.
Wow. You're supposed to be buy local, shop local. Your favorite burger place?
Favorite burger place. Finca has good burgers.
Yes.
Where's Finca?
Finca Table and Tap.
Yes.
Oh my
Where's
gosh.
It's on like 137th and Miller.
Yeah.
Or something?
Wait.
No, you sure? Corway?
Oh, wait, way out there. Way out west.
Yes,
Yes, I hear
west.
it's very good. Your favorite Christmas gift as a kid?
I used to get chess pieces.
Okay.
Yeah, it's weird.
All right. You don't eat hot dogs, do you?
Not really.
Go to Arbiter's. Order a Grant
Arbiter's.
Miller hot dog. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Tacos. Your favorite taco?
Favorite taco.
No, excuse me. Where you eat tacos.
Where I eat tacos. Pollo taco.
Very good. Locally owned. Very good. Okay. Your favorite animal?
Flamingos.
Is it really?
No. Indian rhinos are my favorite animal.
But
But today is National Flamingo Day.
very.
And today, actually, Zoo Miami was part of creating the first ever flamingo working group to start a conservation initiative for flamingos.
Favorite football team?
The Saints.
Really?
Who
Why?
dat?
Why?
Good job, Julia.
Why the Saints?
I just like Louisiana. I don't watch football though. So.
Chicken. Where do you eat chicken? Favorite restaurant?
Where do I eat chicken? Also Finca.
You live out there?
I live out west. Yeah.
When you eat fish, where do you eat fish? Where's your favorite restaurant to eat fish?
To eat fish, Black Point.
Oh, we now know where she hangs out.
And when you eat fish, you want to make sure to use that seafood watch card.
Absolutely.
So that you can know about sustainable fishing.
Sustainable seafood guides.
Okay, 2 more. I'm not going to do all of them.
How many of these do you have?
Your favorite sushi restaurant?
Oh, favorite sushi restaurant. Raw sushi.
Okay, that's good enough. And the magic of the mix. Why is Zoo Miami one of the best in the world?
Zoo Miami is one of the best in the world because we have the expansive, beautiful property. We are a botanical garden. We work every day to save species. And everyone at the zoo, from the people that work at the turnstiles to our conservation department, to our animal science department, to our exhibits department, spend every day thinking about how am I going to make a difference to the world today? And how can I get people to really understand how important animals are, how important wildlife is, how important our ecology is, and how important our world is. And so we do that through education. We do it through fun. We do it through walking through and just being in a beautiful place outside, especially during, a pandemic where it's really nice to be outside.
Yes.
I feel privileged to be able to work there and to be able to share that with almost 1 million guests a year.
That's impressive. Willie, I want you, everybody look at that camera, and Willie, I want you to talk what you're going to talk about and close this out.
So one thing that the zoo's great about is actually connecting guests, and it's the same thing we do at EcoAdventures. And one thing that we can have for the community to engage with that is working on BioBlitz, which is City Nature Challenge, and it's going to be happening till May 3rd. And that's a great way to help biodiversity just in our own area, and having us be able to say what we're seeing and talk about importance of protecting the environment and the biodiversity. So you can download the iNaturalist app. It's a free app, and it's something that can connect you directly to nature and all the things that Julia and I brought to you today, Grant. So that's a great way that right now you can help to do that. And cities around the world are competing in this City Nature Challenge to look at biodiversity. And like I said, South Florida, we're going to make it because we have one of the most biodiverse places in the world. So to close it out, I just want to say that our environment is resilient. It can bounce back. We just have to give it a chance, and we have to make sure that we can do this in time to help protect animals like the alligator, which has made a huge comeback since the 1960s when these animals were endangered. Now we have over 1 million of these animals right here in South Florida, no longer endangered, but we've got to do the same thing for crocodiles, and we can do that by living and learning how to peacefully coexist with our native wildlife, and let's get those crocodile numbers back up to what they were, and hopefully I see a bounce back in that population like we did with the American alligator.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. Let's give a round of applause to Downtown Julie Brown and Willie. Do we have it? There we go. Our new guest. Wow! And everybody.